Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I am Retty4, this is Greyjedi91.
Hey guys.
This is Antoine Bandelay.
Be water, my friends.
And this is Turk McGurk.
Hey!
Matt, why don't you introduce us to the summary of this episode?
Right, so book 1, episode 13, The Blue Spirit. Sokka and Katara get sick and goes on a quest to find some sort of cure, gets captured along the way by Admiral Zhao.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Zuko is starting to feel a lot of pressure because Zhao has become like his rival, and we now know on the back of last episode why Zuko needs to find the Avatar. So all points kind of converge when Aang is captured by his rival, and that's sort of the basic setup of this episode. So kicking us off with talking points.
And there's a lot of carryover, which I like. I like that the storm affected this episode. You know, that preceding events actually have something like them getting sick is because they were in a storm. You know, like that. That's gonna get you sick. And then the fact that
Sokka.
The Sokka. Oh yeah, I like the Sokka like
now
going
Fox
like.
thinks he's
Oh yeah.
You guys are so funny. But the start off.
Rock.
Oh god. Yeah, there are some strange comedic and tonal beats in this episode that I'll mention as we get along to them. But you're right, this is kind of a great episode for introducing the continuity moments, because there's a few various different ones throughout the episode, and this is obviously the first. The fact that it's talking about the storm that we've just had.
Yeah, we get the establishment first from Zhao's perspective, and the fact that he's admiral. Do we know why he got that promotion? Like, I never understood that. No, just out of the blue. Yeah.
You know what? I think I think it's been established, but here's the thing: yes and no, because it's not established in show. But I think the creators have commented to the fact that perhaps Zuko was getting a little too close, too consistently. So Ozai made him deliberately a more powerful officer in the Fire Nation Navy to stop his son from getting to the Avatar first. That's what they've said, like but it's been sort of speculative in ways like that. You know, they are
narrative itself, right?
They say a lot of things like that, yeah, but it's not in the actual narrative of the show itself. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it certainly seems like that too. Wasn't that a previous episode where he fights Zhao?
Yeah, he
Yes.
fought
Is it later?
Episode 3.
Yeah, they have a little Agni Kai.
Episode 3.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Essentially, he should outrank him based off of that because their nation, like, that's what it's all about is Agni Kai. But yeah, we're introduced to the Yuyan archers, who are like the best. Period. Like even better than Longshot.
I'm so sad that they never get used again.
They never show up.
Like,
I know.
write
That happens
something.
sometimes in
Yeah.
Avatar.
They're pretty cool.
They really help
Yeah,
explain
when they're
how...
silent.
Oh, wait.
I like that they don't talk.
yeah.
There's a Yuyan archer with the rough rhinos, I think.
Rough rhinos.
Pretty sure it was
Yeah, I think
was-
so. Something similar anyway. But they do help explain perhaps how the Firebender so eloquently took out the Airbenders, as we mentioned in the last episode, because they definitely seem the type to be able to fight them, even if their arrows are
super
somewhat
effective
weakened.
against them. Super. Because I think the way he says it is that they're so precise that they could like hit a fly
Without killing it.
without killing
Without
it,
killing
you know,
it.
and it's
Pin
like,
it
and
to a
that's what
wall
they do.
without
That's
killing
what they
it.
do with Aang later on, is that they hit him
I like
without just pinning him.
Yeah, I like the metaphor as well. Pinging wings, but they're flies. So like, we don't care about the Airbenders, but they have wings we need to take out. You know, I like the kind of subtle metaphor that could be word inferred there.
What was strange to me though is that the Blue Spirit was there at the beginning of the episode before he knew that Zhao was his rival, unless it's supposed to be like a slightly in the future scene. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the scene, we see him like watching them. I'm like crazy.
I think for the audience, it's probably just meant to throw you off.
Throw off and be like, "Oh, who is this person that's going to
exactly?" Because this is, I was, and I don't know. I pride myself, and I was like, "Oh, I saw that coming," but like things like that were sort of perfectly placing that there, especially in the intro to, I guess, definitely throw you off. And because when I watched this episode, I was like, "Oh, I had no idea."
I feel really bad for that guy, though. That is the worst timed promotion in history. He's like, no, I'm not letting you do this. And then immediately he's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to let you do this. Introduction of the messenger birds as well. We've seen them before. We saw one in the first Spirit episode, part 1 of the Spirit episodes, but we didn't see the actual messenger on it. So this is the first time I think this is the first time we see them used in the series, right?
As far as I know, yeah. Because my favorite use of it is Combustion Man.
No, the messenger bird, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Hawks, whatever it is. Yeah.
The Hogs, yeah.
Yes, that was cool because they come up later.
Hockey.
Yeah, that's really. I mean, that's the establishment is that he wants the archers to find the Avatar. The guy's like, no, I need them to defend like this prison or whatever. Is it a fortress or just a prison?
Fortress. Using them for
It's a
guard.
fortress.
Right.
I get the
I
impression
think that's
from
what
various
he's-
points in this episode that they're relatively close to the front line, because there are a lot of military elements here. Like, for example, the watchtower, watch post that comes up later when Aang gets sighted. That seems like would be a strange place to put it, if it wasn't somewhere near a military zone. So it could be that we've just got that far up onto the continent at this point.
Yeah. And also, I like that when we go to the Aang stuff and he's got to get the remedy, because he doesn't know what the remedy is yet, but he needs to go to the top of the mountain and get it. That they have the obstacle of Appa's also like, I'm not going to fly. And then they have the running thing, which is, I feel like, probably the most inconsistent like piece of airbending feats in the show, because it doesn't really ever occur again. And it's like,
He never
no one
does
should
it
ever,
again.
or Aang should never lose to anybody. Like,
They should be untouchable. Yeah, they should be untouchable.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of this entire kind of setup here, because he puts the glider down. I'm like, why are you doing that? Even if you're not going to fly, you take that with you. This is a plot contrivance. And also the fact that it introduces that ability that is barely ever used in the series. I'm like, okay. But at least that does explain why he doesn't need the glider, I guess.
When he's on the water and like he was running, like that thing is like but then now they're like making like a legit thing like throughout the first half of the episode. It's like, why does he never show up again? He should never be defeated ever. Look how fast he's going.
Yeah, it was like the sickness. It was just kind of a way of getting him separated from the gang and having the focus being on him and the Blue Spirit.
And I think those the Fire Nation guards are like, oh, that's just Fire Nation propaganda. Because it's like, oh yeah, they're super fast, and it's pretty.
Make
funny.
tornadoes out of nothing.
Blows the roof off, and I mean, obviously it's for comedic purposes. It's it's mostly for children.
Yeah, of course. Slightly bit of a setup as well. With the horn, he gets ready to blow it and alerts the guards further up, away from the position. It kind of a very small thing, but it's worth noting because later on we see the importance of the horn further on in the episode, and like a little bit of a tension.
Well, also a little tidbit. That horn is like one of those royalty-free sounds that every reality TV show uses. Like if you guys watch Survivor, that is the horn that leads into like Survivor, the reality TV show. Where people
I did not know that.
But it's a thing, yeah. Like that same like symbol that everybody hears in Naruto all the time. The like that. It sounds like that I hear all the time.
Did we mention that Zhao got promoted like immediately after that conversation?
Well, during the conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. I was like, why?
Yeah,
is he
he's like
Admiral.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the messenger bird comes. Maybe I missed that part, but he comes and he opens a letter and he's like, "Oh, it seems I've been promoted," which is pretty cool because now he's in charge of.
I like the idea that in his head, like if he's really honest with himself, what have I done to deserve this? Like absolutely nothing.
I know.
I
don't care. They give it to me.
Yeah.
Don't question it.
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that we know of him from later, but we'll get to that in a bit.
And I like how the scene opens up with Zuko and the lieutenant, where they're actually having like a conversation finally about like what the next strategy should be. It's not just Zuko on his own being like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You guys, he's actually doing a little bit of delegation and they're having a conversation.
Yeah, the guys coming forward trying to be a bit more of a helper because they've now got this bond.
Another carryover.
From previous, from previous episodes.
But yeah, I like how Zhao's kind of pulling rank now, where he's like, yeah, any information you have, you got to go directly through me, or you have to bring it to me. So another conflict presented for Zuko.
Kind of amps up the connection between him and Zhao as well. Why they care. Why he's specifically focusing on Zhao as the opponent now, even though they're not really connected at the moment in like the terms of the plot story. It drives them together. Yeah. Quite successfully.
Well, they're on a race to catch Aang first.
Yeah, but until this point, that's been the entire thing. But now it's amped up the speed of that and urgency of that, but also...
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Is like, because we were talking, actually, and I forgot, we had this conversation before the call started, but like Zhao's really been not a big part of the show up till now.
He's been in a very few episodes.
He was just in that Agni Kai episode.
The foreground.
He was in the pirate one, the Warbiting Scroll.
He wasn't in the pirate one, was he?
No, he wasn't there.
He wasn't
there.
No, he was there with the pirate one.
No, he wasn't.
Oh my god, why did I just bring that up in my brain?
He was somewhere. He wasn't just in the Agni Kai, was he? There was another.
You're thinking of another one. There's another one on a river with Zhao.
I am. And that's when Aang first learns firebending, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're terrible, Zhao." Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
But there is another one outside of the one we saw with the.
Oh yeah, he is. I don't know why I put him in that scene. My brain totally put him in that scene.
He has the same sort of stance and composure.
No, then I take it back. Yeah, you guys are totally right. He's totally not in this anymore.
So this kind of brings him back into the foreground and helps kind of reintroduce him, and we get a lot more.
He was in the Solstice. I was like, there's another episode he was in. He was in the Solstice.
Yeah, there was.
Because
I
remember
there was
when
one, I can't
like
remember what it was.
Oh, I forgot that happened already.
Oh yeah, with the smoke trail. That's right.
you
That's right.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And being, the commander, he's always related to something to do with water, so that makes sense. You made that connection. He this kind of brings him into the foreground, and it also kind of explains a bit more of his it doesn't explain more of his character. It kind of establishes more from what we already know. It expands on the Zhao as the egotistical, crazy maniac that he is, and kind of frames as well his competence, which sets him up more as a direct antagonist moving forward, because he does kind of now he is more present in the series from this point,
And he will be up until the very end.
yeah. So we need to now fear him more, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
This episode establishes that well.
Now
I
he has
think that. I mean.
Well, yeah.
you guys
Apart
have
from that,
anything else?
he has real power that has just been assigned. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I think the next major scene will probably be Aang meeting Crazy Lady and her remedies.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless
It's
anybody
extremely
has anything
conveniently
else to
placed
say.
herbalist on top of the mountain.
There
Yeah.
was. It's just me and Miyuki.
Yep. Crazy cat lady.
You're insane, aren't
Miyuki's
you?
got like a crazy beard going on too. I've never seen a cat beard like that before.
Yeah.
And I do like how that scene ends with the woman, or no, Aang going like, "You're crazy, aren't you?" or something.
Says,
And she's
You're
like,
insane, aren't you? That's right.
I just like how much of that, like he thought she was working on a cure, and the whole time she's making cat food. And
yeah.
he could have left at any point, but
Yeah.
the whole time he's bored and like, oh, like what next, or what do I do now? It reminded me of many trips to see my great grandmother as a kid, where I could not wait to leave.
"Oh yeah, I've had many stories like that." Ours was nanny. That was my nanny. My great grandma was like that.
Yeah,
Except she
mine
gave
too.
me
That's-
baking, and
yeah.
I loved her for that.
Oh, well, there's better than mine then. Mine gave me nothing but 50-year-old candy. But anyway,
That sucks. But I like that the remedy is to suck on frogs, like frozen frogs. That felt very like Final Fantasy to me, because that's something you would totally like.
Yeah.
You have to excavate the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, definitely got that vibe as
Suck
well.
on them.
Yeah. And then that becomes like a running gag too. It's like, my frogs, like they're.
I'm glad that Aang established, like his reaction establishes that even by this world standards, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like it would, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
I mean, it's
suck
not
on
like,
them.
he it would have been like he could have just been like, okay, yeah, sure, they gotta suck on the frogs, but he's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
The
They
frogs are
literally
the
reference
first.
that like.
Sorry.
Sorry, they literally reference that the whole frog thing later, like books from now, and it's just so funny that they kept that.
Yeah. It's a bit of the consistency thing with this episode. But yeah, I'm glad we mentioned the frogs specifically, because the example of what I was talking about at the very start of the episode, about how this show kind of, or this episode specifically, throws in really weird tonal shifts or comedic moments right next to the sort of high energy, high tension conflicts of the episode. Like we'll just randomly have a bit of focusing on the frogs getting away and Aang's reaction to them. It's a strange juxtaposition in this particular what's what I'm looking for, kind of style of episode, given how high energy, high tension it is.
You're right.
I think
was a bit
that's
jarring.
balancing. Not for me, I guess, just because that's actually one of my favorite things about the TV show is it's like super silly and kiddie, but also like anyone could enjoy it, like of any age. So I don't know. I don't really.
Yeah, that's
I don't
why I
really mind
established in one of our early episodes that I said that's actually some of the things that stuck out to me when I was younger. Like when they did like go offbeat and they had like the weird anime style going on, or like the faces, or like the moving like
yeah.
that and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah,
like that's the kind of like the cherry on top stuff that always brought me back was that when I was younger, and I was like, that's like
And
so cool how they're doing that.
And I think that, not trying to rant on and on and on, but I think that that's what Legend of Korra is missing, which is why I prefer Airbender.
There's a little
over
less of it.
Korra.
There's less of it for sure.
Yeah, because it feels a little try hard when it tries to do it, because it's just not as lighthearted and genuine. It's more like really dark and more, the themes are definitely more adult.
Yeah, it's the
but yeah.
transformation from middle grade to young adult. But yeah, conversation for Korra times, because we'll be discussing that for sure.
Yeah. I definitely
the next
agree.
thing we have is
overall,
with
the specific example was all that stood out to me personally. It didn't quite gel with my tastes. But yeah, I definitely agree as a whole. You know, don't take the humor or the silliness from Avatar. That would be crippling it as a series.
Yeah.
And one of the good pieces of comedy that we have is in the next scene with Iroh and Zuko, because Iroh is like, "You haven't given an order in an hour. Like, are you okay?" And it's like, "Oh yeah," because Zuko totally is like always on everybody's ass, like during the sequence of the show. So that's a good bit of comedy. It's like you don't have to say overtly, "Oh, you're always giving orders." It's like you haven't given an order in like an hour. Like that's weird.
Yeah, but also helps reinforce the fact that we now have the bond with the crew as well. So it's kind of like, why aren't we driving forward? We have this momentum. Why aren't we keeping it going? That kind of thing. And it naturally bleeds into the conversation that he's leading into now, where Zuko's like, I don't care, whatever. And he's in this moment of depression where he's now facing the full might of Zhao's power and resources. And he's, we know why he cares about this so much. And this is, it being almost pulled away from him. And Iroh knows that, and he's like, okay, got to stoke the fires of hope here, but you can still get the Avatar kind of thing.
A lot of emotions from Zuko these 2 episodes. I mean, like the flashback last episode, he was crying, and here he's like depressed. We haven't seen him like in like a despair or like a who cares or I'm doomed or like it's all for nothing. Yeah, defeated.
You don't get that from Zuko, but he's feeling pretty defeated. Like, how the hell am I going to do when Zhao has all these resources?
This is when Zuko started to become my favorite character. He hasn't solidified that for me until book 2, but like this is like these 2 episodes when I started going like, oh, you're different from like what I thought you were going to be. Like this is actually something I can like, empathize with.
I definitely had that going on as early as book 1 for me. But
as your favorite character, already your favorite character.
As of the storm, it was like, oh, I feel like I know where this is going. There were still some surprises there. There was still some ups and downs, but I mean,
at the end of book 1, you're like, oh, he still goes, and I love that, like storytelling wise, it's like, oh, he still like goes back, and even in book 2 is even better in that way.
Big 2 is
like,
why
I told you.
Good. He's a person. He's not just a one-sided like the people.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
I mean, 2 is my favorite season overall, like partly for that reason. But like I saw the seeds of that in mid-season 1, like this area, like he's a person now, you know what I mean, not just a villain. After this storm and this episode, he is not just a villain the way that so many others are.
Exactly. He's not like a generic like comic book villain where he's like, I'm evil, and like, okay, well, we're gonna go. But that, I think before Toph, he was definitely my favorite.
Same
a part of me
exactly so.
Part of me almost wants him to win. Like there's like a kernel of me that like wants him to get what he wants. Not in the way that Ozai wants him to, of course, but still, it's like I feel bad for him when he has it snatched away from him every episode, like which is what he's feeling here. Yeah.
When you get to see what they're going through and you start to feel for them, you're like, oh man, I don't know how to feel. Then you start feeling conflicted.
And it's the feeling that does it. It's the fact that he feels more human. Aang's a bit more, godlike, ethereal character. Not as in how he's presented,
he's also
but in terms of his power. And he's 12, yeah. So the relatability.
He's also a child. Yeah. It's hard not to love Aang though, because he's just so adorable.
I love Aang, but I mean, it's just like I'm not like thinking about Aang's plight at all hours. Like Zuko's like, oh my god, like I mean, is empathy, but also he's such a hard worker. Like he has to work so hard. Like that's what it is. It's like
that's his whole thing.
Innately
that's kind of what this episode
for it. Yeah,
that's kind of what this episode is about in a way.
Yeah, it's a struggle with his character. It's a struggle in his.
He has that. He has that sort of dilemma with Aang and later a certain sister of his, where it's like everything comes easy to you. I've had to work for everything that I don't want to quote it yet because we're not there, but that's my favorite thing about Zuko is he has to work his ass off just to be as good as someone who just is a natural. So
and it's just that
all these goddamn prodigies he's always surrounded with.
Yeah, that kind of relatable layer of struggle that he has on top of the insane like challenges he faces just in his journey alone. If he was already a prodigy and capable of doing so much stuff and dealing with the situations he's put in, it would just make it so much less powerful, but this enhances it. It's beautiful.
And the next thing we have is now that Aang knows what he needs to go and get, he skedaddles from Crazy Lady's house and is attacked by the Yuyan, right? Is that they pronounce it? Yuyan?
Yeah.
And then and the reason I like this scene so much, again, going back to what we were saying about Zuko having to work hard, just being in peril or not getting things easily, is that for once we get to see. I mean, Aang did lose against Jet, as we saw a few episodes ago, but like we see again, like we see someone who's like with that. It was a little bit of a challenge. It was like more even kilter. This is like no, Aang just straight up got beat, and it's like I liked seeing heroes having struggle, and this is like the first time we actually see him actively really like I don't know how to like defend against these guys. I don't know how to like get out of the situation. And it's a really cool action scene. I don't know if you guys have like specific comments about the action scene, but
well,
I
it's
have
really
the
awesome.
music in my head as you talk about it.
I was gonna say it's awesome anyway. But she just made the point I was gonna make. It's awesome anyway. But what I like, if I have always liked, is the music. There's so much tension to that's what really sells the just that quality of like Aang being desperate that you were talking about a minute ago. That music is just so. Crazy.
And also establishing
like the physical beats of it. When they're landing on the grass and they're hitting the trees and they're pushing off from the cliff. The beats hit in those sequences, and it really does land like physically for me on each shot. Which is important for this because so much of the fight itself is framed as based on impact. So arrows hitting the ground, Aang slamming up against.
It's more of a chase than a fight.
Well, chase. I marked on the notes
so
as a chase sequence, but that kind of encounter, I should have said, sorry. But yeah, it's really
no, I wasn't correcting you. I was just like, that's why it feels so crazy, or like that's why there's so much tension. Is he's not really fighting back; he's really just desperate to get out of there.
Yeah.
And it's great. I like how they established that they're like, they're the best ever, and they actually get to be the best ever. You know what I mean? You don't just hear about it, and it's like, oh no, they're defeated. It
happens all the time, by the way, in so many shows. Like, oh, here's blue balls here. Like I was touted as the ultimate, but I'm not because I lost because I'm not the hero. It's like this is like, oh, the bad guy. Like we talked about this again a while back. That sometimes the bad guys win. Which is cool.
And they should.
And these guys really win. I mean, these guys are leaping off cliffs, shooting arrows, and rappelling from or swinging from the trees that they've then shot into mid-flight. These guys are chasing an airbender through the air, so they mean business.
They're the real deal.
I will say, like, that's actually a thing in this series. Most things that are like built up do live up to the hype, in my opinion.
Right.
There's very little failure to deliver, I think, on any of the big.
Which you can't.
So I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe in some ways the leader of the Dai Li, perhaps, but certainly not in a physical combat way. It's more like a failure.
To me, that was an abandoned plot line, which we'll get to.
Yeah, but that's the only example that comes to mind initially, anyway.
And I remember you guys bringing up earlier that when Aang is captured and Zhao is talking to him, that like you guys were like he's like extra douchey or something like that. Like
he like, because in his notes, he's like, oh, Zhao goes full douchebag. I was like, really? You thought it took this long for him to go full douchebag?
Oh, he'd done it before, but
he's like throwing it into his face. He's
up the scale here. It's like, hello, 12-year-old. How does it feel to know you're the last person of your species?
He's scummy. He's really scummy.
I feel like Zhao... I think in some ways Zhao was written to be younger than he appears. Because he's like that's kind of all he does is like bully people who are like seemingly much younger than him, and like fails children, and fails to understand like the lessons of like his mentor, like in Zhang, which we'll get to. So like to me, like that's like a young character, but maybe it's just the
mentally I think he's just kind of a meathead, so he would appear pretty young.
Yeah, no, I can see why that might be the case, because he could have been like sorry.
I was just gonna say maybe he isn't as old as I think he is. Maybe it's just the mutton chops, but like I don't know.
Yeah,
could be.
For sure.
But it could be that he was initially supposed to be a little bit older than Zuko, more early 20s kind of thing, and he was going to be the villain when to run parallel with Zuko, who is going to be switching more from anti-hero than to hero. So it could have been that was the case.
No, he's 30.
but yeah, no,
he's at least 30.
Oh, he definitely is now. Yeah, but it may have initially been the case that he was supposed to be younger. I don't know. It's a possibility. I can see where you're coming from.
So what is the plan of the Fire Nation? Is it just to hold the Airbender until
Good luck with that.
You know what I mean? Because he says like we don't want to kill you because then you'll just recycle again and we have to find you again.
Mm-hmm. He says I'll keep you alive, but just barely.
Yeah, which is the other douchebag thing. Yeah, it's like he takes so much enjoyment in saying it too.
Yeah.
But I think it's simultaneously brilliant and also stupid because like all you did was like chain him up. So I mean, granted, he wasn't going to get himself out of that, but why don't you have like 24/7 guards, or like people like in the room with him? Yeah, I mean, you don't exactly have a limitation of resources. Like, why are you? Don't do that thing. Don't tie them up and leave them alone. That's
I think at that point he doesn't. At that point, he's like, this is just some 12-year-old kid. Like, he's not a threat to us at all, which is exactly what Zuko did, isn't it?
Although I would buy that, but he has also seen this guy go full Roku.
But I mean, I think it's smart.
At that point, yeah.
I think it's smart to not like off him for the reason he gave, but at the same time, really, if he had, the next Avatar wouldn't have been born in time to do anything about Ozai like stomping the rest of the world. So I mean, he really probably just should have killed him, I guess.
Right. That's what I was saying. Like, what is their plan?
He probably doesn't know much about the comet, though, necessarily. It could be argued that he doesn't know
I'm sure
that,
he knows about the comet. I'm sure he knows about the.
Probably,
Like,
probably
He's
does,
not
yeah.
super important, so
He does have that kind of
No,
knowledgeable aspect to him.
like,
doesn't he?
No, Zhao knows.
Zhao's-
It's in his speech.
Yeah,
later on in the episode.
that's true. He
yeah.
He actually says like, "Yeah, we gotta
Yeah,
take down
you're
Boss
right.
Sing Se.
You're right.
This is our year." You know, like he says all that.
Yeah, that's true. Like name dropping Sozin's Comet and Boss
And Boss Sing
Se.
Se.
Like
Yeah.
And also
The writers are so good at doing that.
he's celestial anyway because like he researched the eclipse and like the effect that they'll have on the northern tribes. So like, I'm sure like he's counting down the days till he gets to unload with Sozin's Comet. You know, he can't wait to do that. He's never been that powerful before. You know.
Yeah, it's
Right.
true. Yeah, no, but I'm along the same lines as you. I think it's stupid that the way he kept him, but at the same time, at least we got the competence from everyone else in the scene. You know, the guards outside did the right thing that was believable when they were attacked. The compound was reacting to different alerts as it should be. I like the fact that we still got the kind of competence of the Firebenders in this scene. It helps sell the finale that we'll get to in a bit. But you're right. In this specific moment, it's like, yeah, maybe don't leave him alone, especially considering you know this
Never
guy's
do
gone
that.
full Roku, and he's
Yeah.
Never
also
do that.
even if you didn't know he'd gone full Roku, you know it's possible. You know the Avatar state is an acknowledged thing. It specifically defeated the previous Fire Lord that had the problem in the first place. You know, so you maybe want to be a bit more wary of the guy who could just blow up this entire base.
Yeah. And then for sure he says it too, is like no one's coming to get you. So he really legitimately doesn't think anyone's coming to get him. But I mean, like you said, he's seen him go Avatar state, so what's his deal?
You have to remember, like Zhao is crazy and like crazy arrogant. Like I'm remembering Zhao the Moonslayer right now. This guy's off his rocker. Like,
Zhao!
you know, he doesn't have judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
doesn't have-
narcissist to like the ultimate level.
Yeah, and later in the episode we get the whole speechifying. It's like outside the speech, send my speech to the
Yeah,
Fire
that's
Lord.
so
and
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I want
like,
dire
the transcripts
tribes from
make
all of
sure
my
everybody's
officers and
praising me.
yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
He's all about that fame, man. That's what he is. All about the fame. Oh,
I
small
like
scene
the
that we
idea-
have.
Wait a minute. I just real quick. I'm sorry not to dwell on that, but I like to picture Ozai. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like actually being sent. Like, what? I mean, come on. I don't have time for that. Like, burn it.
He would burn it.
I also like how the
Yeah.
scribe completely trolls him with, "Well, do you still want me to
Yes.
send that little note for you, sir?"
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
screw you, over his shoulder.
The
yeah,
small
that's
thing
good,
that we have
sorry.
is the whole Momo thing where like they can't communicate with Momo properly. He's bringing back like
Love it. Yeah.
rats and no water. No, you're hungry, right?
We
That
need
to me-
water.
Because you guys kind of had this thing a little bit ago, like in this episode, where like you were proponents of the humor in Avatar, and for me, a lot of times it's either hit or miss. But this is like a hit. I like a lot of it. Like I like most of it, but there's some of it that doesn't land for me. But this stuff is good. I enjoy this.
The Momo sequence
Yeah,
I
and
liked.
then also
it
like
was a bit
Sokka
more-
going like, "You guys are the best. You guys are rocket," or whatever like that.
Yeah,
I
with
love
the,
it,
with
and
the exception of
what-
the rock one, I found most of what Sokka was saying amusing, and I liked the Momo stuff as well because it was separate from the main kind of event in the episode. But the only reason I found the frogs jarring was that they were constantly appearing in the actual scenes. Like, oh wait, no, let me just grab these frogs, or Zhao looking down at it. You know, that's why I
Yeah.
stuck out.
I love the frogs, man.
At
I
the
love
same
the,
time, you do need to do that though, because that is what this is all about. Like, otherwise you forget like what is
That it's a middle grade.
True.
He's trying to. Yeah, he's trying. Obviously, he needs to stay focused with the frogs. But I love when Katara sort of to herself is like, "Aang, you know what in the world is taking you so long?" And then Sokka's like, "Who is this Aang kid you keep talking about, Your Highness?" Like she's like a crown on her head.
crown on
At
her
that
head.
point, I just love it.
So
It's
delirious.
classic
It's actually
delirious
kind of scary.
Sokka.
It's like, are you like have demencia right now? Like, what are you getting, Sokka? This is beyond flu right now. Like,
Well, he said in the very first episode that he's had, crazy fever before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whenever he hallucinates, it's funny.
Yeah. Oh,
He does it. Yeah,
A couple
right.
times, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe it's friends.
but then we move on to like Blue Spirit actually like making his way into the fortress, and I kind of like that they have like it's like the wide shot, and then it pushes in, and then pushes in again. And he has like this weird like kabuki mask thing going
I
on,
love
which I
it.
thought was like really fascinating. Like it's a cool style choice, I think, and it also just had that vibe too of like a
I also
kabuki
Yeah. I like the decision to make it blue too, because from what I understand, originally they were going to make it red, and they're like, well, that gives it away to like that's Fire Nation color. And there's also that moment where like he kind of ambushes those guards and like douses water, like because he can't. He has to conceal the fact that he's
to further throw you off, and he doesn't use any bending whatsoever, which is also I mean, if it were Zuko, he'd be using fire, but
right.
And again, and then in retrospect, once you know it's Zuko and you think about everything he did this episode, that hard work, like that's what I'm talking about, like this kind of thing, like Zuko's crazy hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And also he's skilled too. He's no bending at all. You're like, oh well, he's got this other skill too. He's not just a firebender. You know,
it's
you gotta.
Cool too, because no, go. Sorry.
You gotta be competent if you're that type of person. When you're a try hard like that, you can't just be like, I'm just so great. Like no, like and those usually are the people who end up being better in a sense. Like I actually have the thought that Kobe Bryant's better than LeBron James. It's a basketball conversation, but it's because Kobe had more drive than, even though LeBron's more talented, he's got the better body for basketball. Kobe Bryant is the better way to be because he's Zuko, essentially. But sorry about that.
The thing that stands out to me about it, though, is that he seems to be so much more confident with the blades and the non-bending when he's against other bend. I feel like the doubt is what gets Zuko, because when he kind of gets more powerful later on in the series, he doesn't really get more skilled or powerful, visually. He seems like the way he carries himself, the confidence, the philosophy.
He's more confident.
Yeah, that's when the skill comes out. But before that, he's already confident with the sword, so it's showing.
They spend this time like saying that, like how he's not as good as his sister or whoever it is. Like, and Iroh is like, you need to do this and that, and we need more fire bending practice. And so you start it thinking like, oh, he's kind of a novice, and then as the story progresses, you are like, no, Zuko's kind of a badass, and he doesn't even know that until later, like you said.
Exactly. He always has been. He just doesn't know it. Yeah. Because in his head, like when like firebending is like intricately like linked to like the memories of like his sister and father, like who he doesn't compare to, at least not yet. But I mean, and Azula is rightfully put on a pedestal by many people in the fan base. But I like by the end of this series, I don't think she's that much different from Zuko. That's not necessarily a popular opinion, or at least it wasn't at one time.
I agree.
I completely agree as well.
I think he could have taken her alone, but whatever.
Yeah.
But and I'm not just saying that as a Zuko fanboy. But anyway, like what were we back on? Like what were we actually talking about before that?
The infiltration of the fortress.
Zuko being good,
skilled, basically. He kind of the subterfuge shows.
Fun fact. For those of you who follow the Lost Adventure comics, and later on when we find Piandao in book 3, Zuko was trained by Piandao as well.
I did not know that.
Cool. Did not know that.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and there's actually a fight that Sokka and Zuko have in the Lost Adventure comics, because they're like, oh, you know Piandao? He's like, yeah, he's my master. And then he's like, okay, let's fight each other.
Very different types of swords as well, which is very cool. Because different styles. So
he uses Zuko uses broadswords, but so that's why he can do firebending, use swords, and the Matrix. He's got the full package.
Yes. India. I like how people, that's still a thing. Like 15 years after that movie, they can do the Matrix. That's a thing. They made that a verb. That's great. I love that.
But I love the skill he shows infiltrating the fortress. The subterfuge. I like how I said the competence of the guards. They do the whole, let's look under the cart, because why wouldn't I do that? Yeah. And it adds to the tension. You said before about escalating tension. It's him. Oh, is he going to get caught? Is he going to get caught? No, he's going to sneak into the back. Showing the skills of both sides and why it's such a tense situation and anything that could go wrong and set an alarm off.
And that's why you want to do that.
Oh, sorry.
That's why you want to do that narratively. You always want to make people competent, because then it gets that person to be even more competent, because everybody else is doing as well as in the same time.
For sure, yeah. And as he's breaking into the compound at the back, going through the grates into the water, we have Zhao Sarumaning on the platform.
Yeah, Sarumaning. That's so
basically true. Just standing over, and almost the exact same shot as he looks out with the screaming Urukai, going, "No, this is this time."
Oh, you know what? I bet they took that.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly the same thing. It's pulled directly.
Yeah, that's got to be. That can't
almost
be
shot for shot. It looks very similar.
It's even lit the same way. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But it stood out to me. Yeah, and that's just, it's funny how they built. They're building up Zhao and this great triumph, and I have the Avatar, and it's just setting up the rug pulling that's about to happen from Blue Spirit.
How embarrassing! Like, you're gonna make that speech, and then like 10 minutes later, oh, never mind, I don't.
Do you still want me to send that speech, sir? Oh god,
that's so great. And then we have more Blue Spirit going in, and first is the frog situation, because Aang is, in a fire fortress, so his frozen frogs are gonna start melting, and they're melting and running off and stuff like that. And then you have the Blue Spirit doing like a Batman scene where like all the guards are going around the corner and then like getting taken out, and it's like instead of him saying I'm Batman, he's just Blue Spirit. But I like how the one guy, when they wanted to go, the two guards, the first guard gets taken out, and then the second guard, he's like on the wall like sketching.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This is why I said I love the confidence being displayed here. They're doing things that make sense. One guy, go check it out. We don't need everyone going. And, okay, one guy was taken out. Go check that out. And then he's like, I'm not risking this. Go for the horn, which we had already established earlier on. This is the alert horn. So okay, problem. Yeah. It's very, very cool, and I like the escalation. But you've got to wonder, when those frogs crawl under the door, did they just go? Did the Avatar just turn into a frog? That is that the question that's going to be going into their head, because they look kind of like, huh? Or frogs, I should say.
Can you do that? Is that
something he can do?
There's no good explanation, really. Even the real truth is like a little unbelievable. I had frozen frogs in my pockets for my friends to suck on. Like that's what happened. Like they wouldn't have bought that.
Oh,
that's
God.
such a great line. I love that line.
It's such a stupid Aang line. Yeah, it's great. But I'll be, as I said, Zuko's confidence is brilliant as he gets in. Scares the crap out of Aang with the swishing of the blades that you kind of just know under the mask. He's like, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this moment at least. Be scared, Avatar. Let
me flourish real quick.
I genuinely thought it was going to be the introduction to a new character, which I was super excited. I was like, who is this super cool
Is it one
character?
of Jet's people? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, it's just like, I thought it was an introduction to a new character that would join Team Avatar or something, you know?
The non-bending one, although Sokka was already that.
Two things. One, I'm in the same camp because I would have thought it would be Zuko immediately if we hadn't seen him at the very start of the episode so completely far removed from where he was originally, because he does kind of teleport from camp to ship, which is a bit of a flaw, bit of a understandable red herring, confusion, whatever. That's fine. Sorry. But the other thing is, have we seen that mask on the wall yet? Like in the background, and just not noticed it in previous episodes. I thought we probably would have noticed it in this review, but
I think it's later.
I know it's up later, but I wasn't sure had we missed it and not mentioned it. I feel like we probably would have done. But
I think that's why this works, because like there's no establishment of skill with sword nor that costume.
Right. Exactly.
And also the term Blue Spirit isn't even actually said this whole episode. Like that becomes a part of like
it's
the
just
dialogue
called
later.
The Blue Spirit.
Yeah, this is kind of what established him as the big threat, isn't it? But yeah, no, I just wondered because I wasn't sure I'd missed that or not.
Because
it would be cool if you did see it kind of subtly in the background.
It would have been in that first episode when Aang was inside his room and then they were having that fight in the room. It would have been in there if they would have established it. I don't remember it being in there.
I don't either, but if we've missed it, that'd be interesting, because that would be a cool little setup that you just come completely blank until it then becomes relevant. But that was the only reason I didn't believe it, because we hadn't seen anything and he was, like I said, kind of teleporting back and forth.
It was very deliberate how they told this particular episode, so that, I haven't met anyone who knew it was Zuko, so that's cool. That's a pretty hard thing to do nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now in social media age, that'll be out like weeks before.
That spirit guy would have been every single character in the series, plus their children, plus their ancestors, before we got to the actual conclusion. Just look at Snoke. I mean, Snoke was just a new at one point in the fan theories.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so like the next sequence is basically just it's all action of them getting out. One of the things that I liked in particular was when Aang, there was a group of guards and he does like an air bubble that like expands out. And the reason I like that so much is because I think that speaks to the control he has over air, because it's not just that he's just like letting it go out and then they all disperse. He like literally like puts a little lever between them and then pushes them out, which is like I thought that was really dope.
Kid's master.
Right there. There's a reason why he's got his tattoos already,
Oh yeah, another example would be when they're falling and he throws the hand out and just creates the sphere below. Usually airbenders have to kind of form the circular motions to get that kind of sphere going. He just extends an arm, snap, and boom, the sphere materializes. So you definitely see a lot of his mastery here. It's probably one of the bigger displays of airbending we get in like a continuous sequence, because usually it's like one ability, cut away, do something else. Here it kind of incorporates with the flow of the well, not fight, I guess, the escape very well. Long term.
That's true. I feel like maybe I'm misremembering it. Not that it matters, but I feel like he does more water bending in that horrible movie during this scene, but which is weird. Like
I don't even remember the scene.
It's okay.
I don't remember the movie. What movie are you talking about?
Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah, that movie. But
Crazy.
yeah, I mean, I like. I think like this is not that big a deal, but I just like how they established that it's not like most shows. They have like generic guards that all look the same and do the same things. Some of these guys have mustaches, some of them don't. They look different, and they're not all using the same weapon. Some of them are using swords, which is really actually uncommon in this show. We don't see that often.
And some are using spears, and some are doing firebending. Some
common.
aren't. You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of spears.
There's a lot of creativity, full stop. I mean, like you said with the spear, Aang breaks one of the spear ends and uses it as a replacement staff. You know, they use the stupid, not stupid, sorry, they use the ladders in the stupidly ludicrous but amazingly creative stilt kind of maneuver. You know, there's so much like inventive creativity going on here just to get past the three kind of walls of the fortress. You know, just that again escalating tensions. It's really well designed.
Aang's little. No, sorry. I'm getting excited.
I like how well they paced this because like there's like this instant like bond or like devotion, at least on Aang's part, like, oh, this person got me out of this, I'm gonna help them get out of it too, even though we haven't had time to be like, who are you?
He can escape on his own without him.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't even spoken,
like,
Zuko, has he? So they're forming this kind of connection, almost subconsciously at this point. It's cool to see that what these guys could be in the future if they ever work together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's definitely my favorite episode. It's the first time you see that. But it's funny when you talk about, yeah, like specifically when you said about him breaking the spear and having it as basically his replacement glider or his staff. And I remember the little lick that he does like to his little lips when he's like running. He's like, I don't know if you guys remember that part. Pretty funny. I don't know why I remember that vividly.
That's Aang's grit face.
Yeah, it's constant. Let's concentrate. Let's get us on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That's as hardcore as he can be at this stage.
It's so funny though. It's like I always remember that. So.
Details like that just carried through throughout the entire series. I mean, you mentioned the character models in this episode, Matt, but we didn't even mention it in the Great Divide. The Great Divide, which is a terrible episode, has so many unique character designs just in the background of models. Different sashes, different hairstyles, different shoulder pads, backpacks, everything. They always put so much detail into the stuff that you just kind of almost ignore.
I want to say, she was talking about like his expression, like that. Like to me, the one I remember in this episode is like when he's doing the propeller thing and somebody fires like that, and he has like this like look on his face, like oh, he's like his eyes look out.
Yeah.
Like
Someone screen cap that picture of Matt right now.
Dog.
Someone, Callan.
Me.
But yeah, but Zuko takes care of it. It's another example of them working together. He's concentrating on the bending, and he's just kind of, okay, I'll deflect the arrows then. It's like, okay, thank you, thank God, we were both here and both handling it.
Jump on my back.
Yeah, and just casually shouts it, and it's like, well, okay.
Immediately working together. Love it.
It's very cool.
What kind of threw me off was when Zhao was actually like, hey, like, no, we're gonna use precision. I was like, what? You're gonna Yeah, he's not like that usually. You're like
knock out the
everything. He's like, no, let me go.
That's the thing.
To be fair, it does kind of fit the character because he does kind of latch on to specific ideas. What we're going to do this. We're going to kill. We're going to take down the moon. We're going to use the power of the eclipse, or we're going to use the Yuan archers, which I've just got here.
Yeah, because he thinks he's brilliant. It's the most genius idea that anyone's ever had. Yeah.
But I also like that moment where like he's overheard or like whatever, like we have to take the Avatar alive, and immediately it's like the swords are at his door. It's like, oh, like what is this person, like why do they want Aang, like maybe they're not maybe they're not a good person, like what's the motive here? That's interesting, like from a storytelling perspective. If you haven't already seen the episode, like to me that's all brilliant stuff.
And the expression that he gives when he has that moment of recognition as well, he's got a mask on, we can't see his face, so that kind of tilt of the head is just enough to do it. And it's the kind of
which means that like it wasn't like a part of the plan, it was just something Zuko adjusted to in the middle of it. And again, that's like that Ozai Azula side of the family, that cunning, like that immediate, like he hadn't had time to process what's going on.
And again, he's in confident mode.
He's intelligent.
The mask is on. He's not Zuko. He's a master swordsman. The blue spirit. The confidence is there for this. So it makes sense that he's just he's reacting this swiftly.
For sure. Maybe that's why he is so like badass as the blue spirit immediately, because he has that. Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, he has the confidence of being under this guise. Like he's this.
He's not
sort
Prince
of
Zuko in this
mythical.
moment.
Yeah, he's like, oh, so cool.
happens a lot too with some actors, like introverted actors. Like when they're taking on a role, they become a lot more confident. That's what he's doing. He's taking on the persona of the Blue Spirit. So he kind of has that bridge between him. Like if anybody says anything, well, it's the Blue Spirit, or like if you're an actor, oh, well, it's the character. You know, you have that thing of separation. Yeah. And then so then we get the Yu-Yan being competent again, like straight shot to Zuko's mask. And then Aang sees that it's Zuko for the first time, and it's like, oh my god.
That's a pretty big moment, I think, for the audience.
Oh yeah. Well, and I like the fact that the initial reaction is shock, panic. Okay, move away quickly. And then, hang on a second.
Leave.
And he immediately starts running, and it's the moment of hesitation and the questioning that kicks in. It's not like, oh well, I'm just going to save you. Of course I am, because I'm a good person. You know, I'm the good guy. I like that it has that moment of human reaction and feeling.
No, I'm out. You've been chasing me this whole time.
And I'll just leave you.
Saying it. He stops, and that's not the first time, or it's not the last time rather, that he does that. Which is always consistent with Aang's character. Even if Katara is like, screw that guy, or Sokka,
he's fine, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Aang, it's consistent to his character.
I also just like realized I was going to make a joke about like how Zhao like. I forgot I had the Yu-Yan archers. I'm going to use them. That's why they pursued. But it's like, I go back to like when we were talking about why didn't he have guards? Why didn't he have the guard? Why didn't he have them guarding the Avatar? His Yu-Yan.
Anyway, because he says at the start of the episode, you know, you're wasting them as guards. You know, so I guess it makes sense that he's not using them here. It's like maybe this is why the guy was using them as guards.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, that works.
Maybe you should be doing it.
This is why they were there, fool.
Yeah, and the Colonel's even there, you know, questioning him at the time. It's like, what? Why are you letting him go? What's doing? It's like, this call is for precision. It's like, oh, okay, whatever.
I feel like it was half of a good plan, but like he didn't have any like follow up to it because there was nobody out there to do the collection. Like he knocked out the, you know. But it was like, okay, well, almost there, Zhao. You're making progress. I'll give you a C this time instead of an F. You know.
Yeah, for sure, because, I mean, Aang has time to run away. He only hit Zuko, so, I mean, Aang would be like, why would Aang hang around? Like, oh, well, you got him, so I guess
to be fair, he is a naval officer, so I guess the whole not having the ground tactics down pat is a little bit acceptable.
Zula's a princess, not an officer, and if you gave her the same tools, I'm sure that this would have been,
definitely,
got it done.
Yep, cakewalk.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And then the next scene that we get is probably the scene that makes the entire episode, because it's the quiet moment between Aang and Zuko. They're just in a nice little forest, like the lighting scheme. They have like a little yellow light thing. I forget what they call that.
Very
light.
warm.
It's like ray. Yeah. And he's just talking about like, you know, like why it sucks to be in the situation he's in, and he just misses being friends with people or going to different nations and just like being like, hey, what's good? And he like brings up the what's the guy's name? Kanzu? Was it Kanzu?
Kuzan.
Kuzan. Who's like, yeah, like, one of my best friends was a fire.
Together.
Yeah,
I feel like he got in trouble with every friend. That was like the prerequisite for friendship with Aang.
I know, it's like we basically did what we just did at that fortress, like all the time. We just got into hijinks, like it with Boomy when he was at the Boom Omashu, and it's like that's what Aang wants to do, and he's just sad about it. He's just like, dude, like you're kind of a cool, like that was a cool moment we just had right now. Like we could, like that could be a consistent thing, and like why is it that we're in this conflict? Is there ever a moment that we could like have been friends, or could we be friends at this point? You know, which gets even more impactful later when he sees Katara and Sokka, because then they bring that up and they're like, "Oh, did Sokka say, did you meet new friends, or was it?"
Yeah, Sokka said
that.
Yeah,
did you meet new friends?
And then so heartbreaking. He's like, "I thought so." Yeah. I didn't. It's just like, oh my god.
He said, "No, I don't think I did."
Yeah, I don't think I did.
A lot of points to the voice actor for Aang, because again, at the time he was Aang's age. That's not easy acting to do, especially when you don't even have your body.
Like
he said it all with his voice. I mean, I'm sure he's like our age now, but yeah, like really good. Like, you know, that sort of wistful that kind of quality, like that sort of nostalgic thing. That's hard for kids to do. Like, you know, the two of us, we always used to get in like so much trouble.
Much trouble together.
Yeah. He casted a really, really good actor for that, for sure.
Yeah, but
Zachary, God damn it, I can't remember his name now. But yeah,
like one of those.
I know Dante Bascal is the only one I remember.
But he's old though. He's like 30 when he did this.
Yeah, no,
like,
he was even old then too.
He's probably like 40 now. But I mean, but still looks the same though, I'm sure. But I was going somewhere with like that scene. Oh yeah, like the thing I like about that moment. But the thing I like about that moment is that Aang waited for him to wake up. Like he wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have this conversation with you. Like I mean, I got the impression that hours passed because it's like daytime now. So
He also
unless
put
they were
Leon
on
behind his head as well. He was, taking care of potentially the wound and stuff, making sure it was
Exactly.
Yeah, because if he had a concussion or something like that, yeah.
It's funny because we know watching the episode, when he like goes into that like traditional northern Shaolin and like shoots the flame from his fist. It's just like, no, why would you do that?
Yeah. Why'd you go back to
Damn it,
being
Zuko.
bad Zuko? Why am I so bad at being good?
Oh, I love that line.
Yeah.
I love that line.
That's my favorite.
It's one of my
favorite
favorite
episode
Zuko moments.
Yeah.
I love it. But
great.
but sorry, a very 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 loose speculation moment here. But because we mentioned Kuzan, do you think he had a waterbender friend? Because I kind of like the idea that the reason he was going to the Water Tribe and when he was trying to escape, get away from the airbenders.
He was trying to get one of his waterbender friends.
I was imagining that he didn't have one. And
was
he
he going there?
I don't know.
I just thought he wound up there, like because he was in
Yeah,
like an
same.
ice ball that like
potentially drifted there. Yeah,
He
my
talks
headcanon
about all
is
his
that-
other friends. I would imagine if he did, he would have talked about that friend too.
Presumably, yeah. But I like the idea that he was escaping from the airbenders and knew that they would go to people, or at least Gyatso would go to people he knew about and had probably told them about, for one. And I like the idea that he was seeking isolation from anyone. And the waterbending tribes would potentially be a place where he hadn't found anyone, which is why either looking for a new companionship, looking for a distraction, whatever, which is why he responds to Katara the way he does initially. That's kind of always been my loose speculation for why that was the place he went. Because he mentions Kuzan, he mentions Bumi, but I don't think we ever get anything about the waterbenders.
No, nothing.
I mean,
think
he
he'd
knew
been there
about
before.
he knew about like Kyoshi and stuff and riding the eel, and so it's like, how does he? He wanted to do all the sightseeing, like he knew these places, so that's how.
I feel like maybe he only got so much traveling done, like before he got frozen.
Yeah.
Like he clearly went around the Earth Kingdom a lot, and he mentions going to the Fire Nation several times. So yeah, but also where is his temple in relationship to the Fire Nation? Not that far, is it?
No,
Not that
it's kind of
far.
the middle point, isn't it?
It's not
Yeah,
the
it's-
closest one either. The upside down one is the closest one to the Fire
Western,
Nation.
Yeah, because he was southern, which is not too far.
The southern,
from
I think, was
the
between
southern water.
the Southern Water Tribe and
The Fire
like the
Nation
mainland
point
of
and the
Earth Kingdom.
continent.
Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically this episode.
There's a
isn't it?
really. Oh no! There's
sorry?
a small shot that I want to talk about where
yes.
well, first it's the shot where at the river and it's just Aang's hand getting the frog. I just think this is a nice shot. It's nothing really loud to say. I just like that shot a lot.
Likewise.
And what I like too is that when Zuko gets back and we also his name is Lieutenant G.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
Okay, Lieutenant G.
I knew it was mentioned in this part of the episode. Yeah.
yeah because he's like, oh, you missed music night or whatever.
Yeah,
he's got
another
the-
nod of continuity. The horn and the stupid creepy statue
Ruby
that they took
encrusted
out for some
monkey.
reason.
yeah from their time with the pirates.
Bought that at the Pirates.
I
yeah.
really want to see Music Night. I miss it.
But I like that because at this time, like we were saying, Zuko's always like, I got to get that avatar. And now he's like, I'm going to go to bed. And I like that. What that is saying is like, I got to think some shit over. You know what I mean? Like, not really I'm tired, but more of
No
like,
disturbances.
I've been through like a little bit of I had to reevaluate. And also when we see him in his bed, he looks up at the Fire Nation flag and it's just like, I should reevaluate like what am I doing? Like, what am I doing here? Like my mission. So I like that little sequence that they had at the end of the episode for that.
It's the whole
I think that's like maybe
contemplative
the
tone.
first. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. The paired contemplative tones of both him and Aang kind of together. They're both going to their place of rest. They're both kind of separating from the respective, the crew and the gang, and just kind of thinking and like pondering,
The thing is, of course, he exploded at Aang after that question. Like, do you think we could have been friends because he's got his mission from his father and all that stuff hanging over his head? But like when he gets back and he's thinking about it, has he ever been offered friendship ever?
Yeah.
You're like, probably not.
This is the first time that we see. I mean, he obviously has this internal conflict and conversation with himself several times throughout the series, and I think this is the first time that we see that, and it's brought on by Aang asking him that question. Do you think we could have been friends?
Don't even know how to
well,
respond to that. Yeah, how do you process?
And that's the great
what's a
power
friend?
of Aang is his compassion. Like truly, like that is his greatest power. And yeah, you see it here, and it helps. Like Zuko is probably one of his first subjects, and like turned out pretty good, pretty well for Zuko.
I mean, he was the crown prince, so he's going to be separated from people his age just by that respect alone. Let alone the fact that he's got to find non-crazy people in the environment he was raised in. But you said
Yeah.
But especially with Azula as a sister.
Right.
But I imagine she scared most of them away, even if they were there. But you said about how he couldn't process the kind of information. That's kind of where he is for this point moving forward, and like new bits of information, new bits that he needs to process come along, and that's where the kind of interesting stimulus comes for the audience. But for him, he's kind of stuck in this point, like, how do I respond to this? And it's the warring kind of conflict between what he knows and what he has known all this time, or what he thought he's known, with what he is now learning from both Aro, from Aang, from his his journey as a whole. They're warring more and more until we get to the wonderful kind of climax of that conflict.
Who are you
later.
and what do you want?
Oh, that's exactly the moment.
Oh man, it's so funny when you
mentioned.
mentioned you said something about that in the last episode, and I literally got chills and giggled to myself because I thought of that specific scene. I was like, oh, it's so good. I can't wait till we talk about that.
I kind of want to mention
Blue
it now.
Spirit moment, which we'll get to.
I kind of want to mention it just now, but Zuko is, to me, as a character, one of the best characters I've ever seen in anything, period. Like,
that's why he's my favorite.
The best
This is the
redemption
episode.
story, for sure.
Yep,
but everything else on top
in
of
life.
it, just purely. But on top of that, just best character in general, for me, one of. And it's because of moments like that, because you see series worth of establishment build up to those moments of who are you and what do you want. That's a great line by itself, delivered by a great character in a great moment.
Right.
But it has two seasons of baggage attached to it that just resonates perfectly, and I think that's what the power of the series.
And
is.
even then, it's not as simple. It's it's not exactly clear cut there and then. And he's like, okay, well, I'm fine now.
Resolution,
Like,
I'm
no,
fine, moving on, happy. Yeah, and it kind of sets it up in that part of the story.
Complicated.
And Zuko especially,
sure.
because but we'll get to the kind of proper exploration of what that when we get to it. But I felt like it had to be mentioned now because these two episodes are the kind of the launch pad for that as a perspective for the character. This is where we said before. This is where he becomes like one of our favorite characters. This is the reason because
he's
all of
already
this
there
is coming
for me.
to the forefront.
As of these two episodes, he's there. I know, that's we were talking about that earlier. But I'm totally like, I don't necessarily, if I'm remembering watching this show for the first time, I don't know where he's going, but I'm definitely want him to go somewhere better. I want good things for him.
This is why I was probably my favorite episode because this is when I was like, he's my favorite. This is a character that I want to go places. I mean, obviously I want Team Avatar to go places, but I want this guy to go places.
Preferably with Team Avatar. Which
exactly.
And it takes a while because you think, it could have happened in book 2, but it didn't. And it's great that it didn't happen in book 2.
And it's
struggle of it.
Yeah, well, we'll get.
I'm actually probably one of the few people who saw it kind of backwards because I saw the finale. Because like I said, I got into this pretty late in the game. But I had seen the finale, so I knew stuff that happened.
Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying.
The entire series, I was like, win! No. Win! God damn it! So it was heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about come Crossroads of Destiny.
Oh, that's going to be one of the best episodes. I mean, it's just one of the best episodes. Easily top 5 for me. But yeah, well, that's way ahead. We've jumped in with our enthusiasm, but I don't think anyone's going to complain too much. Not with these 2 episodes. But with that covered on the ending, I think that's the rest of this episode, right? We're good to crash up?
Yeah, I think I've said my piece on this one.
Excellent. Well, in that case, these have been our thoughts on episode 13, The Blue Spirit. Join us next week for episode 14, The Fortune Teller. I'm Retty 4, and I still don't have an outro.
I'm graded at 91, and that didn't take 6 takes to get right. Goodbye.
Shut up, man.
This is as fun. Be water, my friends.
This is Turk McGurk signing off. Flameo, Hotman.
She came out with 2.
Oh.
She has 2 closers.
Goodbye.
And Reddy has 0.